everyone. It is your girl Marcy Thomas here for you with you for a very special edition of the BGC Book Club. So as you come in the room or if you're watching it later in a replay, we're just so grateful to have you here for a conversation with an author who's been doing her thing for quite a while. So I'm excited to have her here for the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last. So if you've never watched the BGC Book Club before, I am Marcy Thomas, founder of Brown Girl Collective, and we have been in this space for almost 5 years talking to Black women writers on a weekly basis. So this is a love of my heart, and I'm so excited to have this young lady with us. So I'm coming to you from the outskirts of Atlanta. I'm originally a Cleveland, Ohio girl, and I've lived a whole bunch of different places. So if you don't mind, drop in the comments where you're joining us from, just so we can kind of know who all is here. So without any further delay, we are going to be talking about this beautiful book, Beautiful Broken Love, by the one and only Shanora Williams. So if you're not familiar with her, she is a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of over 30 romance novels and diverse thriller novels. She currently lives near Charlotte, North Carolina, and is the mother of 3 boys and is fiercely devoted and I can't talk today. Has a fiercely supportive husband and is actually also the sibling of 11 brothers and sisters, which that's pretty exciting to me. I can't imagine what that would be like as an only child. Now, when she isn't writing, she's spending time with her family, binge reading, or running marathons on TV streaming services while scarfing down something sweet or salty and sounds like a sister after my own heart. So without any further delay, let's welcome Shanora Williams to BGC Book Club for the first and not last time.
Hey,
welcome, sis. And I apologize for getting tongue-tied, but I'm just so excited to talk to you. It happens sometimes. So welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, Beautiful Broken Love isn't even a week old yet in the world.
No, it's not. Tomorrow,
yes.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. So how is it feeling to have this particular piece of work out in the world?
Oh, it's still nerve-wracking a little bit because, it's still early in the stage, so, it's hit or miss for some people, but I'm used to that with my books. Like, you either love it or you don't. It's that simple for people.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, I loved it, as I told you beforehand. I even dressed like it today.
Yeah.
Down to the lipstick. I had to make it work. So, but I really enjoyed this book, and just knowing some things about the backstory behind what it was that drew you to even write it. So, well, first of all, we'll get into that in a minute. But almost 30 books, or right around 30 books. That's quite a feat.
I think it's almost 40 now.
Almost 40. Wow.
Okay, so a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's almost 40 now, or it may be 40 now. Yeah, ever since when I wrote that, it was a couple years ago for that bio. I need to update it, but yeah.
Wow. And you do write across genres, so that's a thing as well. Because as I mentioned to you, my sorors and I read The Bitter Truth, which was your last book before this one. So yes, you are out there doing the thing and doing it in a big way. But for this particular book, Beautiful Broken Love, what was the inspiration for you to want to tell this particular story?
So the story I've mentioned it a couple of times. It was inspired by my loss. I lost my brother when he was 27 years old. So it was in 2016 when we lost him. And he was a basketball player. He played professionally overseas. He played in Clemson for 4 years and was like a starting point guard with them and everything. So he was, he was doing big things. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So he was honestly one of the first people in our family to do something big like that, like to go to college and to go overseas in countries like Israel and Turkey and just play professionally. So when he died, it was completely unexpected, just out of the blue. And it was more so like, I think the way that he died, it wasn't like a tragedy, like well, it's a tragedy, it is, but it wasn't like something that like, a car accident or something like that. No, it was like a health thing, which you would never expect for someone who played sports. But so it was inspired by him, and it honestly came as like a little tiny inkling idea. And I was like, what if this had been, my someone like my husband, because at the time his girlfriend was his kid. with his daughter. And I was literally thinking like how she felt,
Right.
Because they did have plans to get married and, to grow a family. And so I was just thinking like, wow, I don't know what I would do if I lost my husband. But I don't want to give all the credit to that because, that's the whole story with her. But, I was inspired by that, just that simple idea of it. So I just took that and my pain and transferred it into the story as best as I could.
Yes. Well, again, I'm sorry for your loss because one thing, and this book gets into it when you're dealing with grief. Grief is a continuum. It doesn't matter, it could have been 20 years ago, 5 years ago, weeks ago. It's something that it comes and goes, it ebbs and flows. And that's one of those things that you really dive into in this book. There is the romance element, of course, obviously, in this particular book. It is a sports romance, but just the fact that, that we grieve loss and we all grieve it differently and it shows up for us differently. And sometimes the thing that you're grieving, which I picked up on in the book, isn't necessarily always the fact that somebody has passed away. You could be grieving the loss of a relationship that you never had with a person who's still alive. So you get into it. You get into the good and deep. And, I'll be honest with you, Shanora, as I was reading the book, it felt really real to me, even though I know it's fiction. But the way that you've crafted the story, it's like I could see this. Happening for real, in someone's life. It doesn't just feel like a fictionalized account. Right. Of course, there's certain things you have to do when you're writing a book and telling a story in that way, but it did feel like something real that people would go through and struggle with. So thank you for telling this story. So, and just a caveat, one of your characters' name is Lewis. And my father, who passed away, his name is Lewis, but he spelled it differently.
Okay. Oh, dang. Oh, my goodness.
That was what helped me, because when I kept seeing that name, the first thing was like, oh, Lord, it's Lewis, but it's spelled differently, so that helped. Right.
Still, it's like, ooh, that is a little too close.
It's a little too close. But just for those who haven't had a chance to read it, which many may have not, since it's brand new in the world, give us just a little background or tell us what the story is about.
So the story is about a woman named Davina. She has a skincare company, and she's just lost her husband about 7 months ago before the story starts. So she's really buried herself in work and just kind of distracting herself from that grief of losing her husband. And she's a very strong female character. So she's used to doing things for herself anyway. So she's like, you know what? I'm not gonna, we're not about to be sad. We're about to just work. So she endorses a NBA star named Deke Bishop. And, he's like star, like LeBron James status type, So they end up kind of having this chemistry that she doesn't expect. And it sort of just builds from there. But what she doesn't realize in the beginning is that he's also going through his own grief from someone that he lost. And you don't see it because he's so casual and chill, and he's just someone who's just, going with the flow. But there's many layers to him that he doesn't reveal. And so they kind of go from there. But it is very angsty and a lot of work for him. And I know some people were mad at me. They were like, girl, just go with him. But I'm like, I don't think it would be that simple for a lot of people, or especially women who were actually in love with somebody and wanted that future with somebody. But it does end with a happily ever after. So
it does end happily. It definitely ends happily. But as I was reading and just thinking about the fact, as we said, we've already touched on the fact that you can have a loss and how people deal with it differently. And in the case of Davina, it's like it's new. It's not even a whole year. But then also, kind of to my point a few moments ago, because in this case, her husband had been sick for a while. It's like there was a process. And so wherein in reading it, you might think, okay, it's only been 7 months and you're, even considering whatever. But it's like she's been dealing with some things for a while.
Yeah, because it wasn't just, like a loss, like, oh, I just lost him. And like I said, a car accident or something, a plane crash or something, she lost him to cancer. And so she was dealing with that, for, I guess, months or years with him. before that even happened, like that tragedy of him losing him happened. So I think that as well was something that she was like, you know what, this was a lot of emotion pulled out of me, a lot of things pulled out of me. And I just think she's nervous to do that again with anybody.
Right. And really, she's going into this, and this isn't giving anything away. Because for those who haven't watched before, just so you know, we don't do spoilers here.
Yeah.
So we're not going to spoil it.
Yes.
But, this is in, the blurb about the book. It's a business relationship. So she's not even going into this thinking, I'm going to go and, find somebody that I could potentially date or have a friendship with, or whatever we decide to do. You have to read to see what it is. But so that's not even in her mind to begin with.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't, and I think that's why it took her by surprise, because it's like, hold on, what am I feeling? What are these feelings?
What's actually happening here? Because the reality of it is she's human, and these people are young and in their 30s. I mean, not to say that older people don't get in their feelings either, but to think about that. I mean, seriously, as like a really young person, and knowing that the rest of your life is ahead of you. So yes, you can, you may have loved that person, but you do have to think about what is your future going to be.
Right. Yeah, and I think for her, I think she was just trying to be stuck in that moment a little bit, or, like she was burying herself in work, but I think she was trying to stick to what she was in, like that bubble she was in. But it's just that wasn't realistic, and I think that's what made her nervous as well, was that she wasn't ready to do that just yet.
Right. Yeah. And burying yourself in work, that's a thing. Because how many of us, just in life in general, if we're dealing with something, it could be the loss of someone, it could be, anything. It's so easy to kind of bury yourself in work or bury yourself in activity and not really necessarily deal with your feelings or what you're dealing, what's going on around you.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's probably why I got like 40 books now. 40 books, just burying myself in work, like just to not acknowledge or address it. But of course, those moments are going to come hit you regardless. So it's just a matter of, I guess, how you handle it and deal with that grief when it comes, like in those waves.
Well, that brings up a question for me. You said that you've got 40 books now. So were you writing like prior to going through this incident? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And I would say my writing has changed a lot since then. Like for some reason, when you go through something like that, I guess that extreme, because for someone who's close to you, you kind of have to mature mentally a little bit. And before that, it was just like, oh, I'm writing for fun. This is for play. No, it's like either way, it's all still for fun for me. Like I love what I do, but it's like it changes. Like it really does change your mindset. And it makes you realize like, dang, life really is short. Like this guy, like my brother, who was only 27, like, and I'm 31 now. So it's like, I imagine he would be like now, if he was here, and it's just, so it does like mentally get to you. Like the things I used to enjoy, I don't enjoy anymore.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I get that. And we have a comment: suppressing grief is not a good thing.
No,
it really is not. It really is not. And it does show up in a lot of different ways. I'm thinking, my father passed away suddenly, in 2018. And like you see these paintings behind me, painting became my thing.
Oh, I love
during that time. So, but I haven't painted in quite a while because I guess I'm in a different space mentally now. Plus, girl, I'm always reading books like yours. I don't have time. I don't have the time that I once did. But it's just something, and like you said, for that creative expression, because there's just something about that.
Yeah.
And as a side note, my dad was an avid reader. That's where I got the love of reading from. So in a way, this is my way of paying homage to him by having these conversations and being immersed in literature and all that sort of thing. So
I love that. Yeah,
it shows up in a lot of different ways. A lot of different ways.
For sure. Well, now I need to see another painting. I'm like, so what are we gonna make next? What we painting next?
See, you sound like some other people I know. Like, so when you gonna get back to it? I plan to make some space for it in the year ahead. So see all the stars. Yes. Hey, Carmen. Yes, I plan to make space for it as we, as I move forward, because it is something that I fell in love with and I enjoy. And it's something about putting on music and just, going for it.
Yeah.
So now when you write, since we're on the topic of our creative processes, when you write, are you a person that like has an idea ahead of time and kind of knows where the story is going to go, or do the characters speak to you as you're writing, or how does it work for you?
Yeah, so I would call myself, they call it a pantser. I'm somebody who I'll do very loose outlines, but I usually don't really stick to the outline. I just go with the characters and what they think and what they say. Because honestly, Deke was not even supposed to have a point of view. I was
Oh,
just
okay.
writing it. Yeah. So, but he came and it was like, nope, I need to be in this too. So I was
Right.
like, oh, okay. So let me try to write from his perspective and stuff. So, but I think that enhanced the story a lot. So I kind of just go with, with what they do, kind of like just following the characters and letting them take me wherever they want to go.
Right, right. And the book, just for we, because this is your first time mentioning it, it is written in both points of view.
Yes.
So we do get to see Davina, who is our strong Black female lead character. I love that she's a business owner and a businesswoman. So you feature, the whole idea of being a Black woman in business and what that means and all of that. So we get to see a little bit of that, and other Black women business owners that she partners with. So I really love that, because I'm all about supporting the
Me
sisters.
too.
So
That's
I
what I'm
love
like,
it.
yes.
I love that you did that.
Yes.
So we could see a little bit of that. And then, of course, Deke as this, larger than life basketball star, and seeing him, but also realizing that he does have an interior life.
Yeah.
And seeing that.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder too, like how real basketball players are. Because, men like to suppress their feelings anyway.
Absolutely.
So it's like, you do wonder what they like, especially when they play. Like if they're going through something, I feel like you can kind of see that on the court. But they'll never say it. I feel like they won't come back and like, so right now I'm sad. Like they're not gonna say that. But I think it's just certain ways you can see it. So
yes, and we do get to see that, because he definitely is having feelings and dealing with all of these things along the way. And because we are getting to see his point of view, it's like we get to see him, how he receives her, or wants her and desires her off the top. So a lot of times men may feel that way, but we just don't know it, because I got to be hard. Right. I don't want to let it show that I really am liking this person or whatever. Plus, he is a superstar, so he's used to having people fall at his feet. So there's that.
He's just like, sir, this is business.
Right. So I love that. And I mentioned in your bio that you have a bunch of siblings.
Yes.
So, which I'm like, where do you fall in the line?
So the siblings are combined from my mom's side and my dad's side. So my mom's side, I'm the oldest girl.
Okay.
And out of 8 of them. Okay. And on my dad's side, I am the second youngest girl. So I have an older sister on my dad's side and 2 older brothers.
Okay.
And a younger sister. So yeah, but it's a good mix of boys and girls, and
it's a good mix. Chaos. It's a good mix. Yeah. I love that.
It's chaos.
Yeah, I can imagine you and 11 other siblings at something.
Yes.
But I brought that up because you definitely lean into the sibling relationships with both of the main characters. So we get to meet Davina's sister. I believe the brother's in there as well. But tell us just a little bit about the sibling and how important it was for you to kind of show those familial relationships as well.
Oh, I think it was really important because my siblings were part of the reason I pushed through that hard period. Like we all felt the same. It was, because in that moment you think nobody can understand, but all of them understood. They were like, whoa, like unexpected, and it was just, he meant a lot to all of us. So, in our family, we like to make jokes of everything. Like we're not people who take stuff seriously, which is sad, so even, we were sad for, a couple months, but after that, we would just find ways to be happy about it or to laugh. Like, you remember when he did this or he did that? So it really just pushed us through, like, to get to a better place. But some of us are still feeling the effects of that. Like, I think like one of my brothers is very, very hard. Like he's one of those, like, I'm not showing emotion, not going to do that. But he was there when it happened, when my brother died. So it's like he's suppressing those things, and I do worry about him sometimes. But he's to the point of, like, he's so strong that I worry, but I don't, because I know he will get through it. But
Mhm.
yeah, so we all just kind of like just call each other. We hit each other up. And there was a moment where my sister kind of noticed that I was, working more than I was like focusing on life. And she was like, I think you need to take a break. And I was like, for what? Like, what am I taking a break for? She was like, it just seemed like you just kind of like lost in this. And she was like, you don't really talk about like what happened. And I'm like, what is there to talk about? At first it's like, what is there to talk about? But eventually you do start talking about it, and you feel, I guess, better to talk about it. And because I guess when you talk about it, you accept it. And I wasn't ready to accept it.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. And of course, we see Deke's siblings as well. His
I love his sisters. His sisters honestly remind me of me, because my brothers are clowns. And I'm like, y'all do some crazy stuff and it didn't come back like, so I don't know why this happened. I'm like, I'll tell you why it happened. Like, really?
And I love seeing that dynamic, because as I mentioned when I was talking about you, I'm an only child, so I don't know what that feels like.
Oh man, yes.
I don't know what that feels like.
Did you have like cousins growing up or anything?
I did, but they didn't necessarily live close by, so it was still like we really didn't grow up together. So I've just become that person that I'm always making new friends. So that kind of takes some place, But those you get to pick, them siblings, you don't get to choose.
You don't get to pick,
So that's pretty interesting. But in the midst of of course they are both dealing with different traumatic events, dealing with loss in different ways, building their careers, finding each other, being supportive to other people in their lives. So I mean, these two characters really live full lives. But as we get to see them, and you say this on the front page of the book, there's certain things that may be a little heavy for some readers, and you don't shy away from the heaviness of it all.
I like to torture readers. That's one of my things. I actually had a reader who bought me a cup and was like the mug, and it said "Tears of my readers" on the mug.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Wow.
She was like, I swear you torture us. Like, what are you doing? Like, you break us apart and then you heal us. And I'm like, I like it. It's just, I don't know. It's fun to. It's not fun, but it's just. It's just. I think that's what I naturally gravitate to. Is just like, just healing. I think. In everything, like there are broken moments, but I feel like at the end of the day, life is beautiful, and I think it needs to be shown that there are hard moments and then there are the beautiful moments. So
and we do get to see that, though. And as I said to you earlier, that's one of the things I loved about the book, because as I was reading, I felt like, okay, I may have experienced some of these same things or emotions, or I know people who have been through similar things, and how it just flows throughout your life. And sometimes you can think that you're beyond a thing because, either I've aged out of a thing if it happened when we were younger, or, or if it's something more recent, we're working or we're keeping busy and we think that these things aren't impacting us. And a lot of times it just takes one or two things that might trigger us that will cause these feelings and things to come up. And so we can see that in the book. So in the areas where you talk about like mental health, because there is a situation in there where there's like a mental health thing going on with one of the characters, was that challenging for you to write, or was it something that you kind of had knowledge of just, based on your own life experiences?
Oh yeah, I think it was just more so from knowledge. And I grew up in a family who didn't really take the mental health thing seriously. Like they don't take it seriously. But I'm a big advocate for that. I'm like, no, man, this is a serious thing. Like I think, especially for Black women and Black people in general, I think we do have things we have to process and deal with mentally, and some don't. But I do like that now people are starting to gravitate toward it. Like one of my oldest aunts, not oldest, but my oldest aunt of my mom's brothers and sisters, she is someone who didn't believe in it, and now she's like, I go to therapy, and she's honestly way happier. Yeah, like she's just completely different. And I think it's because she was able to talk about it and to express how she felt growing up. Because, she grew up in a different time than I did. So, yeah. But I definitely, I took it from experience. Like the moments, well, I don't know if this is a spoil, but there are moments where Davina has where she just wants to be alone. And that's definitely me. Like if I'm in my feelings, I want to be left alone, because I wasn't really raised to process my emotions like that. Like, I was just kind of
Okay.
raised to just get over it and
Mhm.
move about, and I realized that I can't do that if I want to be a decent person at heart. Like, I can't do that, and I don't want to teach that to my kids either. So that's a big thing for me, definitely mental health. Yeah, that definitely is, like, depression, all of it, anxiety. I think that all leads to it.
Absolutely. Oh, same. I have a couple of my sorors in the room.
Yeah.
Yay.
Hello.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, I mean, it is something to go within. And me again, the only child, I'm used to processing feelings because
Mhm.
I mean, I don't have anybody to
Right.
around.
Yeah.
I never had that. So, but it's a thing of understanding when to come out of it as well.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think sometimes for some people, it is hard to come out of it.
It
You
is.
know.
It is. Especially, like, I had my 3 boys. I was actually pregnant with my second son when my brother died, so that was hard. And I really do believe that when you go through certain emotions, it literally transfers to the baby, because my second son is so
Mm.
emotional, so emotional. Like, he is just the biggest, like, not baby, but he's just very sensitive. And
Mhm.
um I really do believe that. But yeah, I think that as well, like, dealing with that, I think postpartum is also a big factor. That I didn't even know about postpartum depression
Wow.
until my second son. I didn't know about it. Because I'm like, why am I feeling these things and I don't understand them? And when I learned, I was like, okay, this makes sense. So that really pushed me to believe that mental health really needs to be taken seriously.
It
Um,
it definitely does. It
yeah.
definitely does. Another thing that you don't shy away from in the book, of course, we're gonna get into the love stuff
Yeah.
here in a minute for everybody. Like, I thought this was a love story. It
Yeah.
is, but it's
I'm like,
not.
oh.
It's not. It's not just fluff. And you say that in the beginning. It's
Mhm,
not just
mhm.
fluff. Because I mean, are our lives really just fluff? Are they
Yes.
really? They're not. And
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the whole point of sometimes people I just want to escape.
Mhm. Yeah.
To your point of people say, like, you tear us up, tear
Yeah.
us, tear us down and build us back up. But I
Yeah.
mean, the reality of it is that, we do go through things in the midst. I just want to share this comment real. Yes, I was so angry. Oh, I'm pregnant with my
Oh,
youngest daughter. She is so mean. Oh, wow.
she's so mean.
Oh, she's
Yeah.
getting better though. Wow, wow. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess people don't realize that those things, are being passed on. But in addition to this love story, in addition to watching them interact with friends and family and
Mhm.
coworkers and stuff, there in both of their cases there are some specific issues with parents.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about that and your process of including that, because of course we know where we come from and how we come
Yeah.
up does play a factor in
Oh,
who
yeah.
we
It
ultimately
definitely
become.
does.
Mhm.
Yeah. So for Davina, I think with her mom and her dad, she lost her dad young. And I think with her mom was, you know, I think it was hard for parents back then because they wanted to be involved, but they also didn't know how to parent because they weren't parented. And
Mm.
um, so I think Davina, she grew up with that mentality of, I have to take care of people because I have to take care of my siblings because my mom is never here. And like, I didn't grow up that way. My mom was there, but she worked all the time. And
Mm.
since me being the oldest girl, it's like I literally learned how to perfect making pancakes because I was always making pancakes for my siblings. Like, you can
Mm.
never catch me making a bad pancake. That's
Wow.
like crazy because that's how much I made them just to make sure we would eat something. And she took care of the house. She made sure there was always food, but she wasn't really there because either she was working or doing other things that were personal. So it's like, and you kind of carry that a little bit of that resentment as you grow up, because now my youngest sister is like getting her nails done and getting her hair
Mm.
done, and I'm
Mm.
like, I wasn't doing any of this at her age. Like, I'm over here
Right.
like, being the mama, like the second
Right.
parent and stuff. So I think that forced me to mature a little bit, and I think the same thing happened to Davina. And
Mhm.
with Deke, I think he was just, that is a different story. I don't want to spoil it, but that is
Mhm.
a completely different thing. And I do know people who have gone through that, but if you read it, you kind of, you know, I think you either shy away from it like for him, he pretended it never happened. He was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it. He, even with his name, it was just not something he wanted to deal with. But yeah, that's a whole different thing. I don't even want to speak on it because I don't want to spoil it. Like, it's so.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil it. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up the fact that,
Yes.
these are things in the book. And, they definitely play a role in how these characters become who they are, as it is with us. Because even though I always say, yes, I am my parents' child, but then I'm also very much my own person.
Yeah.
But there are elements of, just like I talked about the thing with the books and my dad. I mean, there are elements, of that. Me wanting to be creative, even though she's not a painter. My mom is a very creative person. So
I love that.
So I know that creative side of me I get from her. So, even it just may show up differently than it showed up with them. Yeah. But, all of these. I'm sorry.
No, my mom was the same way. She wanted to be a writer, so I think that's where I got it from. Just
okay. Yeah, and my mom is an educator, so this is my education in a way, storytelling in its own way. So yes, so but there is a romance in the midst of all of this.
There is, yes.
We don't want to shy away from that because it's good. Yeah. It's a slow burn, but when it burns, but it burns.
Sizzling.
It's sizzling. It's sizzling. So, just from the perspective of, you do write, before we get into a little bit about what their love story looks like, you do write in multiple genres. So I'm not going to ask you if you have a favorite, because you probably don't, because you write in multiple genres. But what is it that, generally draws you to a romantic story or a romance story?
I think it's just, I don't know, because honestly, I didn't get into writing romance until I met my husband. Now he's now my husband, but when he was my boyfriend. So before that, I just I don't take dudes seriously, because why am I taking these men? Like, they're boys. Like, I don't got time for these boys, immature boys. But when I met him, it was completely different, and I was like, oh, like, how can I feel soft with this person? Like, how is that possible? It's weird to me. I'm not used to feeling soft with people. So I ended up writing about it, like just a fictional story of my own life, just made something up, and I fell in love with that. Like, it was fun to make things up and to see these characters be soft and gentle with each other. And I mean, maybe some of my stuff back then was like far-fetched, because I'm like, I don't know anything about romance, but I'm gonna write it anyway. So I think that's why I gravitate to it. Even with my thrillers, they sometimes kind of have that element of like love somewhere, or like even like lust is another thing in my thrillers, especially. It's always an element of that in there. So and my fantasies are fantasy romances, so I usually gravitate towards that lovey-dovey side anyway. So
yeah, some people love, even sometimes when it's toxic.
Yes.
I mean, to read about it. I'm not talking about our own lives, hopefully.
Yes.
But because this is a sidebar, but people are online talking about some of the old like Black movies, romance that we used to love, and they're like, if you go back and look at it now, that movie from the 90s, they were really kind of toxic.
Yes, but I'm like, I'm not going back. Like, don't ruin it for me. No.
Yes, I'm still gonna hold on to the part of it that was good. Yes. But one of the things that really is big for Davina, and of course we've already talked about, she's a widow and all these sorts of things, so this isn't spoiling anything. But just the concept of how long a person should wait to even consider being in a relationship or being in love again. So from that aspect of it, in developing her character, how was that? I mean, how did that play out for you, and really thinking about? Because I mean, you could have had this be 2 years later or 3 years later in writing the story. So what was it that made you want to do it where it was kind of fresh?
I don't know. I think I just like angst. I just like making stuff complicated.
Like the drama.
Yeah, like it's just like, because people even, there are parts in the story where you're like, this is too fast. Some people are saying this is too fast to her, and she believes it. But I don't think, like, there was a part her friend said, I don't think there's a time limit on it, honestly. I think if someone makes you feel right, and it feels right, then I don't see the issue with it. I don't know. Because I had this whole conversation with my editor where she said that if it was a man, nobody would have said anything to him. They would have been like, oh, okay, you know, but when it comes to women, for some reason, people don't expect them to move on, or they get, you know, upset about it or have something to say. But I'm like, I don't understand what the difference is, because if people are in love, they're in love, you know? So I don't know, that's a tricky one. But yeah, I mostly did it because I like angst. That was me, because I did consider 2 years later, but I was like, you know what? No, I want her to meet him now while she's in her feelings.
Now. Right, exactly. Yeah. And we have a comment, LOL, love a little toxicity. It's provocative. It gets the people going. It definitely does. Yeah, but so when you look back like, wait a minute, he treated her like crap. And she's like, but I love him.
Yes.
And some of us have done that before. I'm just I'm not saying any names.
No. Definitely. Because I was like, Davina, I literally swore up and down when I was 18, mind you, that I was never going to like be with anybody. I was like, you know what? I'm over dudes. I'm just going to go to college. I'm going to do my thing. Nope. In comes this man, my husband. Now he comes like, oh, you know, let's fall in love. And I'm like, okay, let's, you know, like what? So but I swore up and down because I was just over, you know, that toxic side. Like everything was toxic. So, but he showed a completely different side and proved that there are good men out there.
There are. And Laura is saying, oftentimes we have to lead with our hearts and what feels right. Hey, have you read this book?
Absolutely, yes. That's true.
Yes, I mean, you lead with your heart and what feels right. And, you know, and within that, there is that whole thing of being vulnerable, all different side. Because oftentimes we can take that stance and like, no more, I'm done. You know, or, you know, that was my one good shot and it's never going to happen again. Or if I do it, it's just going to be a situationship. I'm not going to fall in love, you know, whatever the case may be, because I just don't want to go down that path again. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that was one of the main things with Davina, is that she was already vulnerable once, and I think that took a lot for her to become vulnerable with somebody. So to do it again and so quickly, she probably was like, no, this is, you know, it was very unstable for her to do.
And also when you read her backstory, you'll understand why something happened. So that's it all goes.
Yes. Childhood. I'm telling you, childhood
stuff. It does. That's why when you go to therapy, one of the first things they want to do is ask you, well, tell us about your childhood. You know?
Yeah, I'm in therapy right now, and I speak to her every other Friday, and you know, she points stuff out that I never noticed. Like she's like, you got to learn how to take compliments, because I don't take them. Because she told me like before, because I had curly locks last week, so she was like, I love your hair, and I was like, thank you, but the curls are starting to fall, and she was like, let's do this again. She was like, I love your hair, and I was like, thank you, I appreciate it. Like, it feels so awkward to just say thank you, you know, because for some reason I have to find some negative to say, and so she's trying to push me out of that, just thinking negative or finding something negative. But she told me also that is probably because of the way I grew up, that every time something felt good or felt right or was, you know, going well, something would happen and ruin it all. So I'm just looking for that other shoe to drop, but I got to stop doing that.
Yeah, that's that could be a thing. Yeah. And that's the part we don't want to revisit, the childhood. Yeah, the things that were tough, the things that were challenging. But, you know, but then I often say it's good to revisit it in a way that's safe, in a safe space, and to be able to learn and grow from it. I don't think it's good to revisit it and then just stay there. Like, okay, I'm going back there and I'm going to stay there, and I can't ever move forward because this happened to me when I was 5. That's when it becomes a challenge. But we know people that might be the case. But, you know, we do want to be about growth and forward movement and, you know, being able to heal, because you've already said that as well. This book is ultimately about healing for both of the characters as they, you know, they get to know each other and they fall in like love, lust, love, whatever is happening with them. In the context of that. And, you know, but back to Davina for a moment, because she is just coming out of losing this loved one, and she's had some other experiences that have made making a connection even tough to begin with. It's like, okay, now I have this opportunity, and yeah, I like this dude, but maybe I'm gonna put him in this box. He's gonna stay in this box over here because I don't want to be in a situation where maybe I'm putting too much into it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's honestly, that is the perfect example of putting him in a box and just kind of putting him to the side. Like, you know what? I want him there, but also like, let me not go too fast. Let me just wait, you know, like, and open it when I'm ready. That's what it was. Yeah.
And a lot of times we do that.
Yep.
Well, Karen has a comment. Wow, I always feel when someone compliments me that I'm bragging, even if someone is giving the compliment.
Yeah, that's what it is. I always feel like I'm bragging. I said that too. I was like, I feel like I'm like, you know, fooling myself. And she was like, no, you're just saying thank you. And I'm like, yeah, but it just feels weird.
And I will tell you that Karen is one of my sorors, and so I'm gonna talk about her right now. That girl is fine, fine, fine. Okay.
I love it.
Wears her locks, and you know, she works out. She looks good. So if somebody's giving you a compliment, I'm giving you one now, sis. So yes, accept it and just say thank you and keep on moving. But yeah, it is difficult, you know, because especially if, and I know this is not necessarily. She's like, oh goodness, yes, ma'am, I did it too. But I know this is not really the book, but kind of, sort of. She said, let me just say thank you. LOL. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, and keep it moving. But, you know, that is the thing. And I love it because, you know, we're having this conversation, but it's because these concepts and these ideas are real.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, again, one of the things that I enjoyed about the book because it felt real.
Yes.
You know, and even us having this conversation, we're being real. You know, we're talking about a book, we're talking about these characters, but these are real things that we all deal with. You know, our insecurities or, you know, our fears or, you know, our pushing things down or pushing things back or diving into work or whatever it else to, you know, to not really deal with what's happening around us. So yeah, that is a thing. So, and, you know, as I said, this is a romance. So, you know, they're getting to know one another. And Deke, we get to see him with some of his friends and his, not just his family, but also his friends and his fellow players, because he is a basketball star. And so we get to learn a little bit about them as well. So was that fun writing the guys?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Was it fun to write those guys?
Oh yeah, definitely fun. But you know, somebody told me you're too good at this, like them just interacting with each other. I was like, well, I had to spend a lot of time with my brother just watching them, you know. So when we used to be forced to go to these tournaments and I couldn't stand it because I'm like, this is all day in this basketball court. But you could just see how they interacted, and they were all just big goofballs, honestly, just big goofballs, just running around with basketballs. And they used to come also to our house and just you just see how they interact. And yeah, so that was fun to relive because it made me think, this is how it was when he was around. But yeah.
Well, that's pretty neat. And I like seeing that because I think a lot of times if you don't have an interaction, you may not know. You might think you know, but you don't really know.
Yeah.
So I love this. I love it. So just before we move on, in telling the story, of course, your story has heat. And so do you find that difficult to write, easy to write?
It's easy to write, but my aunt literally was just asking me about this. I said I cannot stand writing the sex scenes. I don't know. I personally don't care to write them much, but my readers especially love it. So it's like I've been forced to do this. Because I'm like, oh God, like I do enjoy it. Like when I do get into it, you know, it's like, okay, this is flowing well. But just, you know, it's a lot of it just seems it all feels robotic when you write it because you got to make sure this limb can actually turn this way and this leg.
Right.
You know, so it's just the matter of detail, I think. And you got to really think like, how does this happen? And sometimes I tell my husband, like, how can we reenact this part right here? Like, and he's
I like that research.
Yeah. So
let's do some research.
Those are my least favorite to write, honestly, in a romance. Really? I don't know why. Like, I've never really enjoyed it. I don't know, but I know, like, I like to read it personally. I do like to read it, but writing it is just completely different.
Yeah, I can imagine. 'Cause I talked to a guest once who said that,
Yeah.
yeah, she like the editors and that whole
Mhm.
process that you go through. The editor, maybe she had something in there. She's like, well, that's not physically possible.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You got to make sure it's physics, like
It can actually happen.
yeah, you got to make sure.
Right, that is funny, and we're laughing, we're joking, but just in telling a story, I mean that is a part of the story, but I mean it's a small part of the
Yeah,
story,
yeah,
and I mean it's real because, as I said, these are real people experiencing real things and having real emotions,
yes,
and Laura said, yeah, you have to paint that vivid picture for us. Absolutely,
yes,
yes,
yeah. Very
absolutely,
vivid.
very vivid.
Yes.
Yes, but it doesn't. I guess there is a fine line
Yeah,
between having it be too much of that, where
yeah,
it takes away from the rest of the story, and you know what I mean.
yeah,
Because it,
yeah.
it
I've
can
actually
become a
had
totally different type of book if you.
yeah. Some people said, I don't know, it's been different mixed how people are taking that, because some people are like it's too much and to tone it down, and some people were like, no, it was perfect. So it's like, but for me, I don't like it to overtake the story. That's me personally. I don't like those
Mhm.
moments to really overpower everything else. I think that's why it took so long to get to the good, the meat of it, the burn, because I'm like, I want to see them build with each other first before they start doing anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, I'll just speak for myself. For me, I appreciate that because
Yeah.
it feels more realistic to
Yeah.
me. I mean, I
Yeah.
know there are some people that meet and it's like,
Hmm.
whatever
Yeah.
from jump, but I would say the average person, there is kind of getting to
Yes.
know this person. Do I like them? How do I feel about them? All these sorts of
Hmm.
things. Yeah, I like them. Ooh, maybe I like them more than I thought,
Yes.
initially, sort of thing. So I did enjoy that. And like I said, in the telling of the story, not losing, the whole point of
Yeah.
we are healing. We are still dealing with grief. We
Hmm.
are still trying to, do things in terms of fractured relationships. All these things are going on because the reality of it is, even in real life, no matter how hot and heavy it is, you got to live real life. You still got to
Yeah.
go to work. You're still
Yep.
going to be dealing with family
Yes.
and bills,
Mhm.
all these other
Yes.
things. So yes, I really enjoyed being able to see that, in the story and have it feel like something that made sense and was natural. And it was fun to read and vivid, as
Yes.
Laura said.
Definitely vivid. Yeah.
A vivid picture.
Yes.
A
Yes.
vivid picture.
My sister is always like, "You were too descriptive," but I love it like that. I'm like, "Well, thank you."
Like, well, I mean, you got to know what's going on versus
Right.
like trying to figure like,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. Because I have read some where I'm like, I'm so confused. Like, what? How is this happening? Like, what position are they in? I get confused, but yeah, I'm more
Right.
so just straight to the point. Like, let me see it. Just make it clear. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just make it clear.
Mhm.
So, of course, as you've already said, there is a happy ending. And I said earlier on, and those of you who watch regularly know we don't do spoilers, so no,
Yeah.
we're not going to spoil it. You
Hmm.
still need to show you the cover again. You
Yeah.
still need to read it, and to really know what the story is about, to see all the different things that they go through. Some of the other characters that come in and try to wreak havoc, because there's always going to
Hmm.
be something.
Hmm.
People are trying to wreak havoc and cause problems for the couple, and but just to see what happens, the places where there's tension, the
Hmm.
places where they actually do go through the process of healing and having that happy ending. So beautiful. Broken Love is just a delight, a delight, a delight. So thank you again,
Yeah.
Shanora. But I have to just bring up the last book, and you can just tell us a little bit about it, because as we've already said, you write in multiple
Hmm.
genres.
Yeah.
And some of my sorors and I had the opportunity to read The Bitter Truth a couple months ago.
Hmm.
So just give us a little bit about The Bitter Truth, the type of the genre that it is, and like your joy for being able to like cross genres as you write.
Yeah. So I don't know, thrillers. I've always wanted to write thrillers. When I first started writing, like around that time, I was writing like romantic suspense type stories.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. But shifting from romance to thriller is tricky because you're like, oh, I can't stab anybody. Like, oh, okay, no, we got to keep it soft, like keep it real soft in romance. But
You
I think
can
if you
stab somebody in,
yeah, yeah, but don't do it because they'll be mad. The readers will be mad.
right, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's that writing thrillers is therapeutic in a way, because it's like those darker thoughts that you have, because we all got those little, like, you remember that those Kermit the Frog memes that used to go around where it would be that voice, or the one with the hood on and then one time, yeah, that's what it reminds me of. It's always that voice in the back of your head that's like, do it, you know? So that's what it is for me with the thrillers. And I love watching psychological thrillers, any type of thriller on TV. Like, I'm watching it. Like, I prefer that over a romance show or movie, honestly. But The Bitter Truth was crazy. It's very crazy. I can't say that. But that one is another one that really touches on like childhood trauma too. Like the stuff that the guy went through, it literally showed in his adult life. And I think that's a common thing with me is trauma, childhood trauma, and going through certain things and how they end up as an adult. Yeah.
And Karen asked, do the books go together? Nope, they are totally different. Totally.
Do not read those together.
No, yeah, totally different story, different characters, all those things.
Yeah.
But that does bring up something, because you are writing in different genres and oftentimes have books coming out kind of close to one another. Yeah. How do you manage that, sis?
No idea. I was talking to my agent, and I think we're taking a break from thrillers for a while. Just because, I don't know, it's just, thriller readers are completely different from romance readers. And it's not really about the readership. It's just, I don't think that people take to my thrillers like they should. I don't know. My expectations were different. That probably is my fault for that. But so we were like, we're taking a break from thrillers, writing those, and then focus on romance because that's what I'm mostly good at or better at in a way. So, but I don't know how I do it. I like the last couple of years were actually really hard because you have to like switch brains a little bit or switch mindsets. Even with fantasy is way more descriptive and convoluted. Like you have to build this whole world. So it's like you go from that to contemporary. Contemporary is so simple. You don't even really have to describe much of anything. So it's like it takes a bit for me to click to certain things, and sometimes I have to jog it with like TV. That's why I said in my bio, like you see me streaming stuff because I got to switch it up and watch something to inspire me to get back into that mindset. But it is hard, and I do not recommend it unless you really do love it, like love to switch genres. But I would not recommend it to someone who is starting out. Don't do that. I think I would stick with just one genre. Like I don't have any regrets, but I realized over the course of the years that the one thing that I really, really enjoyed was romance. Like going back to Beautiful Broken Love was fun to me. It was like, oh my gosh, I missed this. Like that's what it was for me. And I usually do it because my brain is just wired different. Like I get bored too easily. So like after a while, the romances start to become repetitive a little bit, and you just kind of just know what to expect. But thrillers, just like, oh snap, you don't know what to expect. How did that happen? So I think that was why I had shifted there. And also because of the opportunity. Like when my previous agent had reached out to me, they said they were looking for thrillers written by Black women with Black characters or characters of color. So I had already had an idea, and I was like, oh well, let me write something, and I did, and just went from there. But I do like them. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Right, I can imagine. I was actually at an event over the weekend where there were a couple of Vanessa Riley was there. Oh gosh, and right now the names are gonna Yasmin Ango. A couple of other ladies, Valerie Burns, who write like mystery. And it was funny because I was like earjacking, and they were talking about, you have to go online and Google to see how to kill people.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, y'all are murderers.
Yes, it's like, ooh, don't let your history be seen by the CIA or something.
Yeah, because actually one of the authors mentioned that, like, you got to be careful because people wonder, like, why are you looking up all this stuff and how to murder people, how to kill people? Because I mean, just like we talked about with the sex scenes, it's the same thing. Things have to make sense. So like if you hit somebody over the head, like how long would it be before X, Y, and Z medically? Right. You have to understand those sorts of
things. That's true. Yeah, that is very true. And I think that's another thing with thrillers, that they require way more research. And I'm one of those people who doesn't like to interrupt myself while writing. So I really got to make sure I got all my stuff planned out before I dive into a thriller, and they take me longer to write. So because the twist, it's always the twist that you're like, does this make sense to this? So that I think Thrillers, I don't know. Thrillers they're really tricky, but they're fun, but they're tricky. They're
Yep,
tricky.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So I like probably like me. I get hooked into like the true crime shows, especially the
Yes.
ones on
Yes.
TV1
Yes.
for her man.
Mhm.
All that. So I'm like, oh girl, no,
And
why?
like the Snap stories, like all those. I'm like,
Yeah, it's
dang,
like,
yeah,
ooh,
yeah,
child, no, girl,
yeah,
I don't love nobody that much. Sorry.
right. No. Mm-mm.
Oh man, oh Paula, it's always a pleasure to have you here. So thank you. Very good, enlightening discussion. Looking forward to reading your book. I like your love story. I've been nodding and smiling during the entire conversation. Me too. Me too. This has been tons and tons of fun, and I thank you, Shanora. Just a
Thank
quick thank
you.
you for being here and during the day, because normally I do this
Oh,
in
of
the evening.
course.
And thank you to everyone who's here, because normally we do this in the evening.
Yes.
But some of y'all know I'm going to see Usher tonight, so it's like I had to do this during the day.
What? What? I'm jealous. I'm so
So I'm
jealous.
gonna see Usher.
Especially after seeing that video of him with praising Keisha Cole. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
jealous.
So I'm excited. Yeah, I can't wait to see who
I
shows
hope
up
you have fun.
with
I'm sure
him
you
this
have a lot of
evening. But yeah, that's why we're here a little early.
fun.
So
Yeah.
yes, have congratulations to you,
Thank you.
Shanora. So
Val.
I know that this book is Back to Beautiful Broken Love. It's only, not even a whole week. It will be tomorrow. So in
Mhm.
terms of like your promotional events or signings or any other things like what we're doing here that you just want to share with the people who are watching either now or who will watch the replay, so they can come out and get to meet you or see you.
Oh,
Mhm.
I don't even have anything planned. Actually was supposed to do 2 events next year, but I pulled out of them. So it's just because I have a very busy schedule and I just don't think I can swing it. But if they do have individual signings, they usually contact me like 2 or 3 months in advance. So usually I just gotta like update people in my newsletter or on Instagram if I have something coming up. But yeah, I'm a very unorganized author. I think people are gonna realize that about me. I'm very unorganized. Like I'm like, oh no, because I get too lost and overwhelmed. And then I have 3 young boys, so it just
Right. I'm just going to bring that up. Like, when do you even have time?
yes.
So, well, we got a couple minutes. Can you indulge me for a couple more minutes?
Yes, of course.
Okay. You have 3 boys and a husband.
Mhm.
Do you work full time as well?
I do. I write full time, so
You
yeah.
write. Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So what is like when you are writing, when do you find time for your writing and balancing the family, early morning, late night, whenever it comes to you, just for those who might wonder about a writing style?
Yeah, I
Writing.
had to build a schedule or a routine for myself, honestly, because I told you I'm unorganized, but I realized I'm so much better with the routine. And so my kids go to school. Of course, they go to school. They get there about 8, and they come home around 3. So while they're away, that's my time to like do me. So if I do in the morning, I work out, I eat, and then I come in here and just write the rest of the day. So by the time I do start writing, it's usually about like 10 or 11 o'clock. And I'm a pretty quick drafter, like a pretty quick writer. So I draft my manuscripts pretty quickly and I don't go back to edit. That's another thing. I don't go back to edit while I write, which is I think it slows you down when you do that. But yeah, usually when they're in school, but they're about to come on winter break. So I'm trying to finish this book I'm on now before they get out of school, because I know I'm not going to have time to do it, or I'm going to have to work late at night. So if I'm on a deadline, I do work at night, but I try not to do that anymore because I am a very cranky person when I don't sleep, and I got to be on my best when I'm with my kids, because I'm just mean and I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I didn't mean to yell at you, but I'm tired, like that's me. So yeah, so I try not to write at night unless I absolutely have to and have to turn something in. But yeah, I just built a routine, and I do recommend that if somebody did want to do it full time, especially moms and wives, like you really got to build a routine and something that people understand. Like I had to tell my kids that, oh, mommy's writing. I'm going to get a door sign soon that says I'm writing, do not come in, because they have to, so yeah, but I think I have to find time. I think when I first started, I really struggled because my kids were at home. They were young, they were at home. And so I wasn't writing as much, but honestly, now I feel like I'm writing less, which is crazy. I was writing more when they were home. It's weird, but it's crazy the things you'll do just to get something done. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we know what you like to do when you're not writing. You like to watch TV
Yeah.
and, all those sorts of things, spend
Yeah.
time with your family, read a lot, all
Mm-hmm.
those sorts of things. Last question, I
Yeah.
promise, I promise. Because you're writing a lot and you enjoy reading, do you indulge in a lot of reading when you're in the process of writing or not? Because do you feel like it impacts what you're writing if you're reading a lot, or do you read in a different genre?
I don't read at all,
Okay.
because my brain is a sponge when I read, and I think I actually noticed that my voice tries to change, like, to match someone else's when I
Mm.
read, and I don't like that because I'm like, I'm trying to keep my voice. So I have to tell people, like, some authors will ask me, "Can you read this early for me?" And I'm like, I will try, but if I'm writing, I cannot, So, and it's nothing personal. I can't read while I write. If I do read, it is usually out of my genre. So, but even then, I can't concentrate when I read because I'm too busy thinking about my story and just trying to finish it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that is, I don't know how people do it. Like, I don't know how people read and write at the same time. I think if I did, it would have to be like nonfiction or something like that, or like
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
biography or
I see.
something.
I
But
see.
yeah, it's just a matter of, I guess, keeping the voice intact for me, because
Right.
it's so easy for me to lose my voice if I'm like if I watch TV all the time or read books. You kind of just have different mindsets, and I'm trying to keep that
Mhm.
one mindset for that one story.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Well, thank you again,
Of
Shanora, for being
course.
here with us. And this is the first of many times.
Yes,
I always
yes.
tell my guests, once you've been here, you always have an open invitation.
I'm excited.
Because
This
you
was a fun
give us.
conversation.
Yes, yes, we had
Yes.
a good time. And again, thank you to everyone who's watching in the middle of the day, because we normally don't do this, but
Yes.
I appreciate you all. So thank you. Thank you again. And everybody, all of Shanora's information has been scrolling at the bottom where you can see where to find her and follow to see, what events may come up when she has new books coming out, more awards and best-selling things like that she gets, please follow there to see everything that's happening with her. I'm going to let you go. Don't hang up yet. Just
Oh
let
yeah.
you grab some water or whatever. And I'm going to let everybody know what's going to be happening in the next week. And then I'll come and say goodbye to you. So thank
Okay.
you again, Shanora.
Of
See you.
course.
See you in a second.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here with me for this special edition of the BGC Book Club. It was loads and loads of fun talking to Shanora. And, I've got a couple of books under my belt, either with my sorors or, the one that I read for Beautiful Broken Love. And I'm just really enjoying what I'm reading. And I look forward to seeing so much more from this best-selling author. So by means of what's coming up next with BGC Book Club, next week we'll be back to our regular time. If you're watching this, within the next day or so, we'll be back to our regular time on December the 16th, which is next Monday, which is 8:00 p.m. Eastern. We will be talking to Janae Harden about her new book, Make Me Over. So we'll be talking to Janae next Monday. And then that will be the last new live show for the year, because of course we're going into the holiday. And then on that Wednesday, next Wednesday, which will be the 18th. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. And be sure to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube so you can stay abreast of everything that's coming. But next Wednesday, there will be the annual end of year, third year of our annual end of year wrap up, where I'm going to put out a survey within the next couple of days. So you have a week to vote. But next Wednesday evening, in light of having a live guest, I will come on and share the best of the year. You know how all these other folks have the best of the year? And sometimes you don't necessarily see Black women writers in that space. Well, in this space, it's all going to be all Black women writers. So next week, Wednesday at 8:00 p.m., we'll have the best of the year in multiple genres, from our thrillers to romance to nonfiction, all those things, as well as like the best interviews of the year, the ones that you really, really enjoyed. So be on the lookout for the survey within the next couple of days if you're watching, either in real time or within the next day or so. And then the actual awards or top people will be announced next Wednesday. So again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I look forward to sharing more and more books with you from Shanora and other great Black women writers in the months and years to come. So thanks again for being here. I look forward to it. Seeing you again real soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.